Hi, romance readers. I am Liz Donatelli. Welcome to Reader Seeks Romance, the #1 romance novel talk show on YouTube. Author Kerry Winfrey joins me to discuss her second chance rom-com, Just Another Love Song. And Kerry shares details of her reading and writing life in Quickies Q&A. Enjoy and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hi, Kerry. Welcome to Reader Seeks Romance.
Hi, Liz. Thanks so much for having me.
It is a pleasure. I have to ask a question that I have always been meaning to ask you. Are you in any way related to Oprah Winfrey?
Wow, 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 wow.
I wish I was. That is like a question I've been asked for my whole life, ever since I was a little kid. And I wish that I was. That would be great. But I do always feel a real connection to her. And I know that like, no matter what happens with my writing, I'm never going to be the most famous Winfrey in books. Like she's already got it covered.
Congratulations on the release of Just Another Love Song.
Thank you.
What is Just Another Love Song about?
It is about Sandy and Hank, who were high school sweethearts in their small town of Baileyville, Ohio, which is based on my hometown, Belleville, Ohio. And they think they're going to stay together forever. But as so often happens, they break up after they graduate from high school. Sandy ends up staying in town. Hank goes off to become a famous musician. Mm-hmm. And 15 years later, he's back in town. He now has a son. He's been married. They've lived complete lives on their own. And they have to work together to put together their town's street fair. So now that they're back in contact, Sandy realizes she still has feelings for him after all this time.
So you mentioned Belleville, which is an hour from Columbus. And I drove through Belleville on the way to Cleveland. I took the long route and I quickly absorbed kind of like what was going on the main drag. There's a gazebo and there's little shops and it just looks adorable. What did you keep in Just Another Love Song from Belleville?
Well, I mean, as you saw, I kept the appearance of it. The way it is in the book is really like it is in real life. You know, a lot of people are like, this is so much like Stars Hollow and Gilmore Girls. And I love Gilmore Girls, but like aesthetically, it is like the real town that I'm from. Mm-hmm. So I definitely kept that. And I kept the street fair is something that we really have in Belleville. Right. It actually is a couple weeks from now. So everyone does come home for it. It's really exciting. Like some of my friends from out of state are coming back. So it's going to be really fun. And it's mostly like it is in the book. I did make it a little bit quirkier for the book. But, and you know, I like my books to be kind of cozy and escapist. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really put a lot of the negative aspects of living in a small town, which, you know, there are some definitely. It's like the book kind of gets into some of those, but not really, because I like my books to be an escape from reality.
Yes, absolutely. Now, this inspires so many questions. I'm going to go with this. What was the genesis of Sandy and Hank's love story? Because I suspect this whole story began with you listening to a country song on the radio.
That is kind of it, because like I grew up listening to country music just like they do in the book, like 90s country, a lot of like Garth Brooks and Dunn, Reba McEntire, all that kind of stuff. And whenever I'm at home driving around, I listen to country music on the radio because they don't get a lot of radio stations there. So that's what I end up listening to. Yeah. And I was thinking how there are so many country songs about running into your high school sweetheart. Like that's like a whole genre of country music. And I don't know, I just thought that fits so well with the setting, is writing a book about that, and having him be a musician was a good way to bring in the music angle.
Reading Just Another Love Song comes at a good time for me because I've been living in Columbus now for about 8 months. And every time I turn on the radio station, any radio station, it seems like they're all country. So I've been wondering, like, should I, instead of resisting, should I go into it? Should I just accept it and start seeing if country music is for me? And, you know, and so I'm starting to, and then reading your book, I was like, you know, maybe I should give it a shot. So I feel like this might be a turning point in my musical journey. And
I hope so. I would love that for you.
I almost feel like, I think Kerry's trying to tell me something,
Yeah. Well, you know what? I had a whole phase like in high school where I thought I was too cool for country music. Like, I didn't like it and I would listen to anything but country. But yeah, now that I'm older, I have just accepted it. I'm like, this is a part of who I am. I'm in Ohio. I have to listen to country music.
Yeah. So I have always believed that second chance romance is the hardest love story to write because the author has to craft two love stories for a couple that readers must believe fell in love in the first place and then root for them to fall in love again following a breakup, usually when one or both are kind of to blame. Did you ever have a moment of writing Just Another Love Song where you said, how am I going to get these two back together? It is so difficult and you do it really well.
Well, first off, thank you for saying that I did it well. I agree with you. The second chance romance is the hardest trope to write because like you're starting with one of the characters, at least one of them messing up somehow.
Yeah.
And it is so hard to figure out what is the right amount of screwing up that they can do that the reader is going to accept, where it's not something so small that it's just like a misunderstanding and people think, well, why aren't they together? But it's not something so huge that you're still mad at them. So that's why I tried to have it be kind of like a typical thing that a teenager might go through. And I used to write YA, so I like writing about teenagers still. That comes very naturally to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really hard because it's hard to strike a good balance of keeping them apart, but showing how they've changed as they've gotten older.
Right. There has to be kind of a window left open to go through. Because if you close everything and be like, boy, they really burned some bridges in that relationship, then there's like no way it makes it so. Because I've read some, it's like, all right, seriously, how is this ever gonna, work to their advantage and they get a happily ever after? The way you wrote it was like, okay, this isn't, this is something they could come back from. It was well done. Which idea came first? An Ohio themed bed and breakfast or the character Hot Pants Ed?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I feel like the B&B came first.
Okay.
Like I obviously all my books are set in Ohio, but also I really love Ohio. And I knew like if I want it to be this quirky town, I feel like the bed and breakfast has to have some kind of a theme. Like there really is a bed and breakfast in Belleville. It does not have an Ohio theme. It's just a regular bed and breakfast. But yeah, I think that came first.
Did you research Ohio historic figures? That way you can make a room after them? I mean, some of them obviously you knew, but like...
I kind of did. I did have like a Wikipedia page, like who's born in Ohio? And like the one I talked about a lot was Rutherford B. Hayes, because we took a field trip to his hometown when I was in elementary school. And it always really stuck with me. Like he's kind of a random figure that people in that town are very proud of him. But yeah, so that one was stuck in my mind. And obviously I knew like LeBron James, but yeah, I definitely did have a Wikipedia page of famous Ohioans.
I thought that was kind of you to put a LeBron James room in the bed and breakfast, given the fact that he has left Ohio, he left the Cavs, he's in LA, he's, he's dead to a lot of Ohioans, especially in Cleveland.
Not me. So, I am loyal.
Nice. So you wrote on Goodreads that after years of trying, you finally wrote a small town romance, the romance being Just Another Love Song. What clicked this time around that allowed you to write the small town romance that was bouncing around in your mind?
Gosh, I'm not sure, because every other time it wasn't working. Like this book had another iteration the last time I tried to write it. I think it was like 2 books ago. I kind of tried to write a version of this, but Sandy was a romance novelist.
Okay.
And I'm not even sure what Hank did. Like he was the one who stayed in town, but it was way too much. It was like waiting for Tom Hanks. It was like another writer. And I was like, I don't really want to do that.
Yeah.
So the town's been kind of kicking around, and I guess I just had to wait until I came up with like 2 things I could fit together that actually worked.
I enjoy talking to authors because I like getting insight into their ideas and the process of writing. And there's been so many authors I've spoken to where there was an original iteration in which things were drastically different. And then there's this evolution. And I was wondering, like, does that get to be frustrating for you as a romance writer, or do you welcome the fact that you might all of a sudden think of, hey, here's a better way to do it. I'm going to just get rid of that and change all that. Or do you find that a hindrance?
Oh gosh, yeah, both. It is really frustrating because typically when I'm writing something, I will go off the complete wrong direction, start writing something else. Like when I was trying to write the first version of this book and it wasn't working, and I had like a whole proposal ready, like I had written a lot of it. Yeah. And then I got the idea for Very Sincerely Yours, which is about a puppeteer, because I saw a Jim Henson exhibit at a museum. So I just ended up writing that. So it is like, it is frustrating sometimes to be like very at the whim of whatever idea comes to you. Like I am in charge of how much I work, but I'm not in charge of like where the ideas are coming from. The very first one I read parts of, I wouldn't know the name of it because I used to steal my mom's romance novels and read through them. And I would just flip to like the sex scenes because my parents were like, they wouldn't let me watch any R-rated movies. They were really strict about that. But reading was like, whatever. Like I would check out Stephen King books from the library, like read things that were really not appropriate. So I would always read my mom's. At the time, she was reading mostly historical. So it was like a lot of like pirates and stuff like that. Yeah. I've had a lot of those. But then when I was reading romance on my own, I'm not sure the exact first, but one of the first was the Nora Roberts Bride Quartet, which I love those books so much still.
Have you ever met Nora Roberts?
No, I definitely have not. I would love to go to like Nora Robertsville, that town that she owns, and visit her bookstore. That would be great.
She owns a town?
Well, no, she doesn't own it, but she owns like half the buildings in it. I think she owns like a bookstore there.
Okay.
And then I think her son has like a pizza place, and like they do a lot of stuff there. Yeah.
So wait, where is that located?
It's Boonesboro, but I forget what state it's in. North Carolina, maybe? I don't know where it is.
North Carolina actually sounds about right. I've noticed that a lot of romance authors who have like big events and conferences and everything, they seem to be in Texas or North Carolina.
Really? There's a lot in Texas. Yeah, I've noticed that.
What's going on in Texas? We need to get that in Columbus.
I think so. You're right.
We need to have the Kerry Winfrey branded convention and everyone's going to be like, and I'd have to spread the word, be like, listen, she's related to Oprah. This is all Oprah money.
No, that could work to our advantage, I think. Yeah.
I think so. All you need to do is get a picture of you with Oprah.
That's it. That's all I need to do.
And then you use that in all of the promotions. Be like, 2 Winfreys.
That would be great. Yeah.
That would be cool if you could get a podcast with Oprah and it's called 2 Winfreys.
I'll have to figure out if she's into it. She seems like she's not too busy, so it should work.
Yeah, I think she's got a lot of downtime.
Yeah.
What are you currently reading?
Okay, well, I'm always reading books that are not out yet, pretty much. So I'm reading Lunar Love by Lauren Kung Jessen. And I think it comes out early next year.
Yes.
But it's about a woman who has like a Chinese zodiac matchmaking service. It's very fun. I like it a lot.
What is the last book you read?
Ooh, okay. Let me think. The last book I read was Birds of California by Katie Cotugno. And it's like a celebrity romance between like two people who used to be on this like popular teen family show. And then it's like 15 years later and there's going to be a reboot. And she had like kind of a Britney Spears style public meltdown. Okay. It was very good. Really, really good.
Which book, I'm sure there are many, is on your to be read pile?
Okay. This one's on my literal to be read pile right beside my bed. Okay. It's by Sarah Grunder Ruiz. And it's called Love
and
Last Resorts. Yes. I bought it a couple weeks ago and I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I loved her first one.
Okay.
It was so good. It was very emotional. Definitely made me cry, but it had really romance in it. So I'm looking forward to reading.
Who is your top auto-buy romance author?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I have a couple. One is very obvious. It's Emily Henry. I know everyone loves Emily Henry, but I am always so excited for when her new books come out.
Okay.
And then my other one would be probably Sarah Hogle, who I'm doing an event with in October here in Columbus.
I know, I've already saved the date.
She is one of my absolute favorites. I just think she's so funny, and her voice is unique. Like when you read her book, it doesn't feel like anything else.
Okay.
I love her writing.
Now, speaking of Emily Henry, there is a blurb on the cover of Just Another Love Song by Colleen Oakley, USA Today bestselling author of The Invisible Husband of Frick Island, which I had wanted to read. Did you read that?
But that's the only one of hers I haven't read yet.
Okay. But I believe we discussed once that we both read, the one where she's dreaming of.
You were there too.
You were there too, yes, which is a great book. Okay. So Colleen Oakley wrote a blurb for Just Another Love Song. If you love Emily Henry, you'll adore Kerry Winfrey. Now, you really like Emily Henry. How did that feel to get that type of a blurb from Colleen?
Very nice. Very nice. Like, obviously, it's nice to be compared to such a great writer and someone whose work I love. So, yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah. Have you met Emily Henry?
I have, yeah, because she's also an Ohioan. And actually, I went to one of her events for a YA book she had right before Beach Read came out. It was like pre-pandemic. So she was in Columbus on her book tour. Gotcha. So I have met her before, yeah.
Awesome. Do you think Emily Henry gets blurbs saying if you love Kerry Winfrey, you'll love Emily Henry?
No.
Which is easier, writing the first draft or editing it?
Well, really, my real answer would be whichever one I am not currently doing, because I always think like, it'd be so much easier. But I love drafting because just through necessity, since up until this year, I've been writing with my son at home with me. Right. I have to draft really quickly. I don't have a lot of time for self-doubt because I don't have a lot of time to write. So I just kind of have to be like, I have an hour I need to write 1,000 words, and I just have to do it and not think about it. Yeah. So that is usually pretty fun. And I don't have a lot of time to doubt myself. And then in revisions, when I'm like, I have to make this like actually make sense. It has to be turned into a real book somehow. So that is a little bit harder.
Which 3 items do you always have on hand in your writer room?
Ooh, that's good. So I always have a notebook. Like I have a notebook for each project I'm working on. Okay. So I always have that so I can like jot down whatever I need. Like I'm in my writing room right now, so I can look around and see what I normally have with me. I always have that. And I always have a beverage. I like to be drinking like tea or water or something. And then I also have on my desk, I have this little, this is Lewis from One Direction. My best friend gave him to me like a really long time ago when One Direction was still a band, because we saw the documentary about them, and she found it like at a store and thought it was funny. So he's kind of like my writing good luck charm, and I keep him on my desk.
Oh, isn't that sweet? Okay, I just got a great idea for a story. What if you write where there's a romance writer and she's got her little figurine of this, boy band singer, and he comes alive?
That's a great idea. It is.
That is an idea that you could take and run with. All I ask is for an acknowledgement in the back.
Yeah, I would, if I wrote that book, I would probably dedicate it to you, because that's a pretty good idea.
Yeah. What is your romance writing superpower?
Oh, I feel like writing pop culture references, probably. I always put a lot of those in my book, and I know that's a kind of a controversial topic. There are some people who do not think you should include any real pop culture in your writing, but like I mentioned to you earlier, I grew up reading Stephen King, and Stephen King always uses real references, like real TV shows, real everything. And when I was a kid, it never bothered me if I was like reading Cujo and it was a show I'd never heard of. Yeah. Like I like when it's set in the time that it is. Absolutely. So I like that the pop culture references kind of date my book, that if you read it in 10 years, you would know when it was written and when it was set. Yeah. So that doesn't bother me, but that would be my superpower, I think.
Which is more difficult for you to write? The opening line of a novel or the very last line?
I would say usually the very last line.
Okay.
A lot of times my opening lines do come to me pretty early on, like Waiting for Tom Hanks. The first line was, I just thought I would have met Tom Hanks by now. And that was like always the first line. A lot of times I have those in mind. Yeah, endings are a little bit harder.
I've had authors mention that their fear or their concern about the last line is it being too cheesy or corny. Is that something that
Yeah, it's hard because you want to kind of sum up the whole story in that last line and like everyone's happy, everything's great. And it's hard to do that without being cheesy. But I don't know, maybe a little bit of cheesiness is okay.
Do you share your work with beta readers?
Not a ton. I do have one friend. I went to college with her for creative writing. So I've known her for a long time. And she always reads my books before I send them to my editor. And she always gives me really thorough feedback.
Okay.
There are like a couple other people I send things to, but I don't send it to a ton of people before my editor.
Okay.
Really, I have to know that it's someone who's going to understand the vision that I'm going for with the book.
Yeah.
Too much feedback, I feel like can be a bad thing, especially if it's someone who doesn't know what you're going for. Like, because I want honest feedback, but I'm not going to send it to someone who doesn't like rom-coms. That wouldn't be helpful.
Right. What are you currently working on?
All right. Well, I am working on my next book, which will be out next year if everything goes well. We have not announced it yet, but we should hopefully be announcing it very, very soon.
Okay.
So I can say that it is loosely based on a movie. It's got some enemies to lovers. It's got some fake dating. And my goal with it is for it to be as funny as possible. This is like a no tears book. A complete emphasis on the comedy part of romantic comedy.
Interesting. In amping up the comedy, are you preparing in a different way than you have for previous rom-coms? Are you taking a comedy class, improv?
Maybe I should. Maybe that would be a better way to prepare. But I watch a lot of screwball comedy movies from the 30s and 40s, and something where there's just kind of constant funny things happening.
Okay.
It's very much still a romance, but
Gotcha.
Some of my books are funnier than others. And this one I'm hoping will be on the funnier side.
And the movie that it's loosely possibly based on, is it an older film?
Yes, it is. We should be announcing really soon.
Okay.
So,
I have to wait though. Thank you so much, Kerry, for taking time to join me here on Reader Seeks Romance.
Yes, thank you so much, Liz. This was super fun.